thank you for coming today. This is a very special event or symposium today for many reasons. One, Dr. Ruben Mesa, who is my scientific advisor and who graciously agreed 5 years ago to be that person and who is a frequent speaker at our events, moved from the Mayo Clinic in Arizona to the University of Texas for a much bigger role and a wonderful role there, and I will introduce him more formally in a moment. So we're very excited. This is our first event in San Antonio, and we hope to come back every other year. And we had such a wonderful response from the patients, not only in Texas, but really from all over. And for this particular program, that we actually have people on a waiting list because we were kind of confined in this space, and we were able to finally get 85 seats, which, I'm very happy. We're very pleased to know that. And I know some of the patients in this room are new. You will learn lots of things here. You'll probably be a bit overwhelmed at first, but it will start to absorb the information. It's also a special event because unfortunately, we lost a very large figure, not only in size, he was 6'5", but also I want to dedicate this program to Bob Rosen. I'm sorry, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for him. I interviewed with the foundation in 2005 when the JAK2 gene mutation was discovered. And I had been working in breast cancer and prostate cancer at another hospital in Michigan, and interviewed with Barbara Van Heusen, who is the president, and Bob. And it was such a invigorating, wild time for them, but I was so intrigued and went to work for them and stayed for 8.5 years. And so saw this evolution of what was going on in the MPN community. The ground was always moving. And beside me is Michelle Worley, who is now the executive director of the foundation. And I'm very proud of her because we worked together for about 5 years at the foundation. And she was my go-to person. And all I can say is Bob was in an office with a bunch of very energetic women. And he really was open to us. I mean, he would just say, "What do you guys think? What do you want to do?" And there was never a moment where he said, "We're not doing that," because he himself was a patient, and he was eager to explore any possibility. The cutting edge research that happens from the funding from the foundation is unbelievable. And we are now working so closely together and synergistically with our education and advocacy, with my organization and theirs now with all the research they're doing. I'm just very proud of them, and I'd like you to extend a welcome to Michelle Worley.
Good morning. Some of you I've met before, and some of you I've only spoken to online, so I really appreciate the opportunity to see you in person today and get to know you a little bit more. As Ann said, it's been a very hard year for us just because of the loss of Bob, who was the first MPN patient that I ever met, and who instilled in me the idea that we could, if we were thoughtful and strategic and worked together, we could change the paradigm for what MPN patients could expect from the outcomes of their diagnosis. It's our opinion that not enough has changed in the past, almost 2 decades since the foundation was started. And I can't promise that we're going to have an answer for you tomorrow or next week or next year even. But as Ann said, things change so quickly, and researchers are so dedicated to making an impact in the people with ET, PV, and MF. And our dedication is to the patients who reach out to us, who let us know what they're going through, who let us know what they're thinking. And it's our job to make sure that they have some hope for the future, and we're going to do everything we can to improve the outcomes for people with MPN as soon as possible. Thank you, Ann, for letting us come and be here, and it's together that we're going to tackle this in a really meaningful way. So I really look forward to hearing more from your speakers and meeting more of the patients, but thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. And just so you know, the foundation does have a table in the registration area, and they have information that you may be interested in taking with you today. So I'm going to briefly fly through, but I'll try to be thoughtful and careful that you do understand what we're talking about here. But again, Dr. Messa has been with me for 5 years, hanging in there with, very graciously accepting my invitations and our invitations to come and speak at our events. He is now at the University of Texas Health Center, and we just adore him. And most of our physicians and researchers are the most gracious people I've ever met. Not only brilliant in their fields, and he always says I sound like his mother, but just really a wonderful person to work with. I want to quickly let you know that the MPN Advocacy and Education International, we have many initiatives going on currently. One is Women in MPN, which we started 4 years ago. We're about to host our 4th annual Women in MPN program in Chicago in September. If you want more information about that, we can get that to you. And actually, I think it's in one of your handouts. We also started a pediatric and young adult MPN, and just to go back to women, we partnered with Dr. Laura Michaels, who is here, and she'll be speaking later on this morning. There's lots of research out there about specific issues with women that have MPNs. Pediatric and young adults, we've partnered with Dr. Nicole Cuisine in New York at Weill Cornell. We're hosting our first pediatric and young adult event in Chicago the day after the women's event, and have some great speakers there, and it will be a wonderful program. We do advocacy work on behalf of Vietnam veterans who were exposed to Agent Orange and have an MPN. Our database grows exponentially almost every week, but mostly about 2 or 3 a month. We have been to Washington, D.C. numerous times. We're trying to get MPNs on the VA's presumptive list of diseases that were caused by exposure to Agent Orange. We're not there yet. It's a huge bureaucracy, and every time leadership changes in Washington, it causes me major grief, but we're still working on it. We're also working on the Hill in D.C. quite often on behalf of all of you to get other things changed in healthcare, but also with the FDA. Michelle and I have been at a couple of meetings now, one at ASH and one in Washington, D.C., to at least have a great relationship with them, but to encourage them to make some changes on behalf of our patient group. And then, as I said, different partner initiatives. We're working with the foundation. We hope to be very helpful and integral in their initiatives, which Michelle and Lindsay can talk to you about as at lunch or whenever, if you'd like to chat with them. But there are lots of initiatives going on currently in the MPN world. I would prefer Michelle to share some of the projects in more detail with you, but things that are going to change the landscape. Our goals and commitment: we are committed to quality care. We will do everything we can to help you with if you have a financial problem getting treatment access, we will do our best to help you in that area. Current research and clinical trials, we want to know what everyone's doing so we can let you know. And I know Dr. Messa and probably all the speakers today have some clinical trial information, and of course current research for sure. And then our advocacy efforts, as I mentioned, we look at when people approach us about certain things, we really try to think about it and ask other people and get other information from other people before we decide to embark on a project like that, because we do not get funding for advocacy at this point, and it takes a lot of work. And then we try to provide as many resources to all of you as much as possible. If we don't have them, we'll find them for you. And of course, you've probably heard this, you don't look sick. We hear this all the time, and we deal with patients constantly that are trying to work and are suffering from grave fatigue issues or pruritus or a number of things. And you, as the patient, know much better than I do the symptoms. Although I have to tell you, I recently, probably in the last year, I had this weird thing. I had pruritus. Oh my God. I can now say to you that anyone that has had it, it was the worst thing I've ever had in my life. It hurt. It was on my nerves. It was just, I mean, I would itch, but it hurt. And so I can kind of relate in a small way with that. There's a fear that comes with, of course, with your diagnosis, but the fear is there are many prongs to that fear, and part of it is the uncertainty. How long am I going to live? Am I going to be able to work? Am I going to be able to care for my children? Am I going to be able to pay for my treatment? And that treatment may include seeing a therapist or seeing somebody that helps you work through maybe some depression about the diagnosis, the physical limitations. We do have people that say, I had to quit my job. I couldn't do it anymore. So there are those things that you have to think about, and all the while, you look lovely and people don't understand that you have something going on with you. Sometimes you cannot share it. I have a young woman in a factory situation, actually, who is terrified to share her problems because she won't get advanced to a supervisory position. There are lots of things that go with this diagnosis that has to be worked out and thought about and brought to the surface. So, some of the MPN myths that we've seen over the years is that, it's this particular age group. Well, guess what? It's everywhere. Infants, I talked to a physician at UCLA. A baby was just born with myelofibrosis. So, that's why we're focusing on pediatric and young adult. The average age, of course, is, we're looking at that life expectancy, and I think Dr. Messa could definitely speak to that. Treatment, are treatments working the same in all patients? No, absolutely not. There are some things that do work for a lot of patients, but it's a very heterogeneous group, and what works for you may not work for you. Do men and women have the same issues? Well, mostly, but there are some very specific issues that women endure with and have challenges with MPNs as we give birth and have menses and menopause and all these other things. Lots of older women will say to me, yeah, I was having all these symptoms, and it was always tagged menopause when it really wasn't. And I really want to hone in on this one just for a minute. Surgeries and no planning. If you have an elective surgery, you should definitely bring in your whole medical team, including your hematologist, so they know how to treat you after and during the procedure. If you have an emergency surgery, we have these cards available to you. We send them out all the time. And I know there's an app you can put on your phone as well, but this tells what MPN you have, who your hematologist is, the phone number of that hematologist, and to please call them before they do any surgeries. I think it's good planning to carry something like this with you. And is this an orphan disease? We still struggle with that. The World Health Organization defines an orphan disease as 200,000 or less in the United States. I question that, but others can speak to that, I believe. Oops, sorry. And then coping with your diagnosis. I always say take control, but that's easy for me to say. I've had other things happen in my world of health, and I found that the best thing to do was to take control. And taking control meant educating myself, finding a good team of physicians to work with, making healthy choices. If you smoke, you shouldn't. You better get rid of it. If you're not exercising at all, if you're eating, fatty foods and not taking care of yourself, anything you can do and have control of to help you navigate through this better I strongly suggest it. Staying connected. So often we start to hide in a shell if we're not feeling good. And I think it's important, and many studies have been done on social ability, having a social life or someone that you can talk to. And maybe it's not just to talk about your disease, but to talk about everything. And because so often we can crawl into a shell. Know that you are not alone. Look at this room and look at who we are. We're all here. The foundation's here. I'm here. these physicians are so accessible. I just can't even tell you. They're marvelous. And so know that you are not alone. If you ever need anything, call one of us. And the patient support groups. There are 2 in the Texas area. I have to don my glasses for this one. But in South Texas, in the Houston area, is Tina Cooper and Charlie Nielsen. I've known him for a long time. If you'd like to stand, say hello to these folks at some point of the day if you want to join their support group. And then Andrea Spica and James Livermore are in North Texas and Dallas-Fort Worth, and they are here as well. And so please, you've got great support right in front of you, right in this room. So at this point, I just want to show you that we try to go to several different cities in the course of a year, and we just hope that you enjoy today's program. And if you have any questions, please let us know, and you'll have ample opportunity to meet and speak with the presenters.